Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. What's going on, people? I'm Audley Stevenson, and welcome to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping you live your best audacious life ever. It's such a blast to be able to share here with all of you. And I can't say enough how much of a blessing it's been for me to be able to do this week in and week out. I feel privileged to be able to sit down and chat with some incredibly insightful and smart, amazing guests, and then be able to pass on those learnings to you, the listeners. It's so important to me and so special, and I feel honored at being able to do this. So thank you for being here. Listen, you can connect with us on our social media channels, on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us under the handle The Audacious Pod, and then on Facebook, it's The Audacious Living Podcast. Please like, follow, subscribe, share. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll get instant notifications. So there's lots of great ways to stay connected, multiple ways, I should say, and I would encourage you to take advantage of them. This week, we're going to have a lot of fun on this episode because I'll be sharing a conversation that I had with my good buddy, Steve Gamlin. Steve, he's a great guy who truly has a heart for people. He does a phenomenal job inspiring his audiences, whether it be as a speaker or a coach or as an author. One of the things that he does a very, very good job at, very well, I should say, is helping people get crystal clear on what their goals are. You see, knocking off goals and being successful is something that we all want to do. But sometimes the motivation isn't always there. It could be because we're tired, or maybe we're distracted, or even a lack of courage might be the reason. But here's the thing. If we have goals or things that we're chasing and they're important to us, then we have to find ways to motivate ourselves past whatever it is that's holding us back. We got to take that first step. You see, motivation makes things happen, but it's the inspiration that serves as a spark to get ourselves going. So quite simply, focus on the spark. Like I said, the chat with Steve was a great one. Again, he's insightful, all sorts of great tips and thoughts that he leaves with all of you. And again, he's a fun guy, so we have a lot of fun, a lot of good laughs in it, a lot of good laughs in as well. And I'm certain that all of you will enjoy it. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Steve Gamlin. Enjoy. It's in my view. I'm going to get to you. I want to get your take on what Audacious is. But I'll share you with me because it's not necessarily jumping off bridges and cliffs and skydiving and all these extreme sport types of activities that you can do. Like, those certainly are. But in terms of each of us being audacious in our own world or our own sphere of influence, it's a lot simpler than that, right? I equate being audacious to being your true authentic self, because within that concept, you're demonstrating your own individual greatness, and why that's so important, Steve. And I'm going to hammer this home, and I've been talking about this for a while, and it keeps recurring over and over again. If I'm living my individual greatness, that inspires you and others to do the same. So I wanted to start there because I know if I were to ask you, you'd have a similar definition. So I wanted to get my definition first.
And everything you said, dead on. And it's so funny because, I saw a message this morning. I go on LinkedIn every morning and I look up what did Gary Vaynerchuk or Ariana Huffington say yesterday.
Yeah.
because I love to just throw a comment on there, usually something pretty thought out, because I just want to get that as fuel every day.
Right.
And this morning I wrote down talking about being authentic, being yourself, following your dreams, no matter what anyone else is saying around you. Or in so many times in my life, I haven't even told other people my goals and dreams because I didn't want to hear it.
Right.
But then when I achieved them, oh, Steve, you're so lucky. Like the same people who already given me so much garbage and grief months prior. And so I just always listen to my own voice and I follow my own heart and I bring my brain along for the ride to figure out how to do it.
That's right.
I didn't always do it that way. I was passion,
Right.
and broke. So now I surround myself with the best people. Everything I create and share is the most authentic version of myself.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest decision I could have ever made, because what I found out was me coming out of the shadows, and anybody who does, and this applies to you as well. There's always people still in the shadows wishing they had the guts to do it. And you are a hero to someone in the world wishes they were as brave as you.
Right.
No matter what you do. And I've jumped out of 3 perfectly good airplanes, but those aren't the stories I share. I share stories like when I received an email on June 16th of 2007 and almost threw it out as spam. And the next day I figured out it was from a woman I hadn't talked to in 21 years who I had a crush on in high school. From 1,300 miles away, she sent me this email after 2 decades plus of zero contact.
Wow.
4 weeks later, she was audacious first. In a text, she admitted how she felt about me back in the day. And I confirmed it immediately that I felt the same way then and did then. This June is our 14th anniversary.
Amazing.
So,
and that's what we're talking about, Steve.
Yeah.
It's these little things that could be groundbreaking. And I'll tell you something that's been abundantly clear to me. And actually, I've had to learn it, because we often have things that are unique to us, right? Call them our superpower, if you will, right? We all have our own, whether it's you're a great storyteller, or you're empathetic and you're a good listener, or whatever. You tell good jokes, whatever that is. And by us using our power, right? We're actually, and the funny thing is we use these our powers, and to other people, as to your point, they come across as being, wow, that's incredible. And we oftentimes miss out how impactful they've been. So I've lost count of the number of times someone would randomly say to me, hey, do you remember that time you did this and you said this, man? I really appreciate it, and I've never, ever forgotten that. And for the life of me, I'm staring blankly going, I really don't know, but I'm glad you took something from that.
Yeah.
And what that does, Steve, it reinforces to me that I've got to continue being me.
Oh, yeah. And those are the greatest moments. And it's funny because I used to be I said this the other day on an interview on a radio show in England, and I had to explain the context. I said, if self-deprecation was an Olympic sport, I'd have more medals and trophies than Tom Brady. And I had to explain to them who Tom Brady was. I forgot for a second. I was international there. Like, hey, is this Tom Brady guy? I'm like, oh, okay. But I used to be so bad. And dear friends of mine, my buddy Chris Whitehead, pulled me aside and intervened upon me after a 3-day personal development event. I spoke all 3 days. The third day, I don't know why I woke up in the mood I woke up in, but I was so self-deprecating on stage, I trashed myself. And he said, I watched the audience. You blew every single one of them off because you were there for you and not for them. Right. And he says, unfortunately, they're all going to walk away from this and not feel appreciated by you. Right. And he said, I'll kick you in parts of your body your doctor only sees once a year if I ever hear you doing that again. And I've never done it. So whenever people do come up, not only do I try to reach the shadows every time I want a stage or a camera, that's where I used to be. And that's where I have to get to. Anytime someone says, thank you, now, even if I don't remember it, I just say, wow, how long ago was that? I am so honored that you remember that. And I'm so happy that you did something with it. And I had a guy approach me in the Captain Crunch aisle of a grocery store. This is like 7 years ago now. He walks past me and he goes, hey man, you're that speaker, right? And I turn around, we're the only two in the aisle. And I go, yes, sir. I said, I'm a speaker. Where did you hear me? He says, Acton, Massachusetts. I said, okay. I said, Acton Networking. It was unemployment networking group. They would bring me in twice a year.
Okay.
Because they would do job skill,
Okay. Yeah. Makes
positivity,
sense.
job skill.
Right. To keep the
And I said,
motivation up.
yeah, it was basically to just give them some hope.
Yes.
Real hope, not like,
Yeah.
you can do anything you want.
Right.
And the guy said, I said, so what do you remember? And he says, I remember the monster truck couple. It's a picture and a story that I use. He described the picture that was on the screen. He retold the story. And I said, oh, and he retold me the lesson of it. I said, okay, $1 million question. What'd you do with it? He said, I had a job interview a week later, and I went in there, didn't stare at my shoes, my resume, or the ceiling. He goes, I figured out who Monster Truck Guy was, which is basically just the person who connects with you most energy-wise in any situation. He goes, I found Monster Truck Guy on the first round of questions. He goes, I talked to everyone, but we connected. And I said, and he goes, oh, hell, they hired me. I got the job. And he holds out his hand, and I'm like, it had been 3 years prior, and he saw me at a grocery store and thanked me.
Incredible. Well, I love that. But
wow.
No, and so this is exactly what I'm talking about, Steve. Like in terms of, and I love your term, reaching the shadows. That's awesome. You're gonna have to tell the monster truck story now. I'm intrigued. Like you can't leave me hanging, Steve. Come on.
I've got a picture of people in like a stadium, like an arena.
Yeah.
And way up top, there's some empty seats in the dark. And that's basically the people who just won't show up for you no matter what. And that's okay. You don't focus on those. That's why they're way up in the back.
Yep.
In the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there were two gentlemen that are there like this. And I say, how excited are these people to be there? And everybody go, oh, not excited at all. I said, but they're still there. It just means what's going on right now. Maybe it's an opening act or something. Isn't what they came for.
Right.
But then there's this man and a woman who were like this. I said, wherever you go, you look for these people. If you're speaking, if you're interviewing, if you're in a crowd somewhere, if you're part of anything or team, I said, you be these people. They are so excited about what's going on right now that they're matching it with their energy. So I said, wherever you are and wherever you go, find the monster truck person or be a monster truck person. Because I always said, it made me think that there's like a monster truck rally going. And this guy's like, yeah, he can't wait to go home, listen to Leonard Skinner and pop a beer and put on his monster truck t-shirt that he bought. So yeah, 3 years later, the guy quoted it.
Still remembered it.
Lord. And very, very humbled.
Awesome. No, that is a great story. Now it doesn't come at any surprise that we're on the same page here. We're speaking the same language. So I want to take it a step further here, Steve, because I think the big part of this podcast is that we want to be able to kind of help people through this. It's a great thing to talk about it, but you want to be able to offer. And so what I wanted to get from you and get your thoughts on are some steps or some things that people can actually do to do the things that we're talking about here. Because again, if it's innately normal to you and it's not a thought about, well, today I just got to go out and be what I got to be and do what I got to do. You're not thinking about, well, step one to do this and step two. You're just kind of doing it, but it's not natural to everyone. So, what does that look like, Steve?
I actually find that out more and more, the more that I do something that does come easily to me, which is why I chose this path, that it's difficult for other people. And I usually get reminded of that every year when I go to get my taxes done. When my CPA goes, oh, this is easy. This is easy. I'm like, I'm sitting here with a stack of receipts. Don't you dare turn on that ceiling fan, because it took me 6 weeks to get it to look like this. But the stuff that comes effortless to me, I actually sat down because somebody asked me this a while back. And I put together 5 steps. I call it visualize in 5 because I do a lot of work with visualization, vision boards and stuff like that. It's to not only formulate what your goals are, but to know what they absolutely look like. And not just look, feel, sound, smell. As many senses as you can attach emotionally to what you want, the better. It's like putting more bungee cords on to hold something in the back of a truck on a bumpy road. The tighter you've got a grip on that visual, the better. And then to do things like, why do you want it? Who already has it? who will you need to become? What type of person or what traits will you have to strengthen, or who will you have to surround yourself with to be able to pursue it? I mean, so many of us have this goal of, I want $1 million. And all you have to do is be outgoing enough to go out there and attack it. But if you don't like to leave your home, if negotiating and speaking with people is way out of your zone, good luck with that.
Gotcha.
So it's building your strengths, becoming the person you'll need to be to get there. And then the fifth part is taking the actions necessary. And I talk about that like an old wooden roller coaster. We got a good rickety one here in Southern New Hampshire. And I love it because I sat on it 17 years ago and got this lesson. You surround yourself with all the people who are going to enjoy the ride you're on, not complain about it. And you just start going click, 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 because the top of that hill is your first goal. But you have to do every single step to get there. You can't cheat it. You can't like rob your way or fake your way to it. You've got to put up with every single little step, because when you do that last one and go over the top, man, you couldn't stop that ride if you tried. So you scream your brains out, you laugh, you cry, you do whatever, because you did everything it took to get there, and you celebrate it. And it frustrates me when people say, don't celebrate your goals like that. Just go to the next one. Man, I'm going to scream my brains out for all the work.
Not this guy.
Nope, not this guy. And I tell people, I said, when you get to the end of that ride and you're white knuckled and you got tears blowing back from the wind and your hair looks like a rooster, I said, what's the first thing you want to do? And they're like, go again. I'm like, set your next goal.
That's right. That's right. And what is wrong with jumping from excitedly from one goal to the next? How is that wrong? I mean, I think what that actually is you're building up great momentum, Steve. I mean, it's such a thrill, and to suggest that that's not the way to do it, I just can't fathom that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And so many people out there, and we know, and every time I say the word guru, I do the double quote and I roll my eyes, because the gurus they're actually part of why I became a speaker. I got tired of watching people with their Lamborghini, their yacht, and their mansion saying, this is success.
Right.
And if you buy my super secret program, and then of course we high pressure you into our platinum level coaching program, and then our halfway around the world elite weekend mastermind, then you can achieve success. And I'm thinking, I don't want any of those things. I drive a 10-year-old Honda CRV with almost 250,000 miles on it. And it's my favorite vehicle I've ever owned.
Right.
And see, to me, success is having conversations with people like you. To be in love now for almost 14 years with the woman of my dreams, who is about 7 feet above me right now in her office.
Right.
I've got my own recording studio. I'm successful. All I need to do is continue to engage everything around me that inspires me and reach more people, and just be a living, breathing example of what's possible. I mean, one of my vision board clients, her biggest goal right now is to clean her house. So I created the hashtag, this house needs to breathe.
Yeah.
She was saying, throw stuff out, get rid of junk. I'm like, okay, those are a little negative.
Sure.
You're angry about the situation. Let's think about it like the house. The house just wants to breathe because it wants more room for laughter, love, fun, family. She goes, I said, family dinner, how often do you do that? She goes, oh, Steve, I haven't seen my table in 6 months. I go, okay. She sent me a picture of the table the other day.
Right.
In a month, she's done what she hasn't done in 2 years.
Wow.
And she's rocking it. I get tagged all the time. I tell all my clients, you better tag me every time you go click.
I love it.
And we got a little mantra. It's hashtag click, baby, click. And I get those daily. I get bummed if I go a day without one.
Man, that's awesome.
What's everybody doing out there?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. No.
Let me cheer you on. I mean, sorry.
Well, that's what it's reciprocated, right? And you need that back and forth. And so that obviously, it would certainly drive me and keep me going, because it validates that, that we're on the right path. And I want to go back to the discussion of success and what that is. And I've often, and I still maintain that it's very individualized, because success to you could be very different from someone else. But for me, I think the common thread or common theme in that is a level of satisfaction and happiness, right? Those things, if those things aren't existing, then I think it's time to reevaluate, really, is this truly what success is?
Yeah. And for me, success is being able to pay my bills, having a positive impact, including kindness in some form every day, and putting my head on the pillow at night next to the woman that I just love more than anyone in the world. And first thing in the morning, whichever one of us wakes up first, one of our feet reaches for the other person's feet every morning.
Amazing.
And as soon as whoever's alarm goes off first, and I got a brand new alarm clock I haven't figured out yet. So thank God this wasn't early today. But one foot reaches for the other, and we both just go, That's how my days start. And then I get up and I write in my gratitude journal first thing every morning, my 3 favorite moments from the day before.
Gotcha.
And you can't repeat. You can't say, because I say that to people. I go, what are you grateful for? They go, oh, my house, my family, my car. I'm like, okay. 10 days later, I go, what are you grateful for? They go, my house, my family, my car. I'm like, you are nowhere near as happy as you were day one. Give me something different. Come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that takes real soul searching, Steve. So I mean, I'm glad that because I was going to ask. It's funny you say that because I was going to ask about it. Well, okay, so do you ever repeat, or do you ever have things that you're re-grateful for? But to your point,
there's variations of, but like when I have my weekly group coaching program, because I have a group of clients that $10 a month. I show up every Monday night and do a half hour just giving tips and strategies, super low cost. So each Tuesday I'll say last night was week number whatever, because I believe consistency plus momentum equals confidence. So I always want to be grateful that I didn't quit or I didn't stop.
Yep.
And I thank 2 podcast hosts from England yesterday. It was my third thing today. 2 rocking podcasts from the UK with Patrick and Sue. And I promised Sue during our interview, she goes, am I going to be in your gratitude journal tomorrow? I said, yes, you are. I'll even send you a picture to prove it. And I did. And she loved it.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So see, little stuff like that, man, we're just so plugged in and aware of the littlest shifts we can make. It's Jeff Olson, Slide Edge. That 1% shift, if we can create it in someone's day,
that's right.
Here's where their path goes.
Yeah.
It just goes up. And we never know. Of course, the beauty of it, it works. It works in our favor too, even though that's not the intent.
Right. No, you're right. And I love it. And I think the 1% is huge because it can be really, really simple, Steve. It doesn't need to take a whole lot. Heck, I got my name on the chalkboard behind you there.
I know, right? I'll send you a picture.
Right? I mean, that's made my day, right? So I mean,
I love doing stuff like that. Man, I've had some people say, "Oh, you're small on my screen. What does that say? Let me make your screen bigger." And then they go, they're like, "I made the chalkboard in the Barnboard Lounge." That's what one of my clients calls my studio, the Barnboard Lounge, because this is actually real.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
$74 worth of barn board out of a sawmill 2 towns away.
Awesome.
Because I always wanted to have a barn, and we don't have the room or the budget to build one. So my dad in my first studio years ago, he goes, "Hey, bud," he goes, "still want to build that barn?" I'm like, "Yeah, that ain't happening. We don't have the room for it or anything." And he goes, "Well, why don't we just go to a sawmill and get you some board and make that one wall so you get the vibe?" And we lost him 2.5 years ago, and I built this studio since, but I went and very carefully took every single piece of barn board apart and have repurposed it all here.
Oh, amazing.
So, yeah.
That's a good memory too.
Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. My bud, my best friend. My favorite picture of us of all time is over there on my desk here in the studio at all times. So, yeah.
I keep those memories alive. That's how
very blessed.
That's how they stay alive. So I hear you loud and clear.
Yep.
I also wanted to get your thoughts, Steve, on generally, we were talking about people living their authentic lives or being true to themselves, and that's how you find your own greatness. And we kind of went down that path, and we certainly understand what that looks like. What I think is an important piece to understand is that there's times that you're gonna swing for the fences and miss, right? And
oh yeah,
you're gonna experience your disappointment. You're gonna probably need a couple other swings to if you're trying to get that ball out of the park. But our approach to disappointment, to failure, to not achieving our goals, our attitude and approach to that is so important. Wondering why, if maybe you can comment on what you think holds people back from trying again once they fail?
Actually, I have two fears that used to fight it out all the time: fear of failure and fear of success. And I used to, if the fear of success was actually stronger, I used to self-sabotage. I'd wait till the last second. I'd miss a deadline. I would go over time on a speech in a competition. I used to self-sabotage badly. And then I'd go home and I'd just be mad at myself and said, well, wait a second, you did it. What are you getting mad at for? And then working with some coaches and some mentors around me, they're like, why are you doing that? What are you so afraid of? I said, well, I was on the radio for 10 years and I've been a classic rock guy my entire life. I just turned 53 last weekend. So I've been in the entertainment industry now for 29 years.
Amazing.
I said, there's so many stories out there of these one-hit wonders. They put everything they've got into this one thing and it goes up big, and all of a sudden they realize they can't repeat it and they go away and they become a footnote. So that's my biggest fear. So that's kept me from sometimes some projects that could have gone
right,
boom, and made me a big name,
right,
which now we're working on because I'm not afraid of it anymore. But for years, people would come back 6 months later. Hey, Steve, how's that project? No, it's just kind of mothball. Maybe it just wasn't a good idea. I was so afraid that it was going to blow up and I was going to all of a sudden be successful, not have the systems in place or the mind space to handle it. So I would make excuses and I would stop pursuing it.
I find that really interesting. It truly is. And because it's the thing that you're working toward. It's what you said you wanted.
Yeah.
You said you wanted it, Steve. Come on.
I know. Oh yeah.
All of a sudden,
I wanted it. I wanted to help people, but all of a sudden when the pressure was there, like, oh my God, this is going to be huge. I'm like, whoa, perfectly imperfect me maybe isn't ready to be huge yet.
Right.
I am now. My favorite pictures ever was a piece of firewood up at my old studio, because Motivational Firewood is my trademark. I own that.
Yeah.
And I just had a piece of firewood and I went like this. And I captioned it: face not perfect, hair not perfect, body not perfect, smile not perfect, brain not perfect, still kicking butt.
That's it.
And every time I post it, people go, how did you know I needed that today? I said, well, the day I took it, I needed it. So there.
For me.
I said, just remember, anything I create, man, I was my first customer.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. So now, everything I'm building now, I'm like, swing for the fences.
Sure.
But click.
Yeah.
We have built in the past 3 years, working with my mentor, a guy named Lonnie Robinson, who I absolutely love. And him and my other guy, Chris Whitehead, who I mentioned, basically, and I'll quote Leon Russell from his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, found me in a ditch in the side of the highway of life, because I had created the Vision Board program years ago as a physical product.
Yes.
And it did okay when it came out, but it was bulky. It was expensive to make. So I said, I want to make it available digitally. So on my own, learned how to make a very clunky WordPress website that kind of could do it, but was really not great. It got hacked by Chinese porn and Bluehost shut it down. And I just did not have the heart or the fire to even try again.
Gotcha.
And that's when my buddy Chris called me in May of 2018. And he says, hey, man, how's that program? And I said, dusty. He goes, what do you mean? I go, literally, dude, I'm looking at it. It's on my shelf. It's covered in dust. And he says, it's time you meet Lonnie. And Lonnie made me cry on the phone. And I said, every time I say that, I said, you made me cry, you bastard. I love you for it.
Right.
And now we've got all this cool stuff going on. And
amazing.
But I love doing these interviews, and it's not even to sell my program. I ask people, I said, look, what can I say or do that's going to have the most impact for your people? If you mention my website address at the end, that's cool. Or otherwise, half the time I forget to say anything other than just providing value. And at the end, they go, hey, Steve, we only have a minute left. You haven't even told people where to find you. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Motivationalfirewood.com.
But Steve, here's the thing in all this, right? And I agree with you in terms of wanting to provide value. The value you provide, people will be gravitated to that, right?
Yeah.
They will seek you out. They will come find. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to make sure that people know where to find you and all that good stuff, for sure.
Yeah, say it at the end when you're saying goodbye.
The value in what you offer, if it's there for people, they're going to come looking for it. And as a coach and speaker and all the service that you provide to people, those are the individuals that you want to work with more than anything else. Isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, I see interviews and I talk to hosts all the time, and because my goal for this year is to add value to 100 audiences. 100 shows. And I'm going to crush that number the way we're going already. I'm having a ball. But I'll say, look, you've probably run into people who do this. I said, write about your second question. They'll go, hey, I addressed that exact problem in my book, which is available at Amazon.com, which, hey, leave me a review. It was an Amazon bestseller at 2:35 a.m. in the Panda Motivation section. As I say on page 37, I'm not going to give it because I want you to buy the book. And then they say what it is. I'm like, oh my gosh. I refuse to pimp. Right. That's what I said to a host one time. I said, I refuse to pimp.
Right.
I'll give you the info. I'll give you my insight. I'll give you what's worked for me. Right. But I'm not going to be hawking my stuff or saying things like, hey, if you get my program, this.
Right.
I may mention the program. Like some people say, Steve, how important is why? I said, well, module 4 out of 10 in its entirety is all about why.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Because why is everything. It's the gas in your tank.
That it is.
If you don't know what your why, you're pretty much screwed.
Well, it is. I mean, for me, the why is the equivalent of the purpose, right? So why are we doing what we're doing? What is the purpose of us being here? And sometimes for different people, our purpose doesn't appear the same way, right? It doesn't happen in the exact aha moment. Oh, I know what my reason for existence suddenly is. It doesn't happen that way. I'll bring it back to the podcast. I mean, I did this because I felt, and I had to get through that journey and that process to get there to say, this is what I should be doing. And it's important to me for these reasons. And that's why I'm doing it. So, but it's different for everyone, right? It is.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah. And so many people say, well, you need to do this for this. Like, this should be the reason you can't tell someone that.
Right.
I mean, my why, pure and simple, it took me 10 years to get the lesson, is when I was broke and depressed at age 24, living on my grandfather's couch, a friend kept asking me, how come you never went after being on the radio? Because I'd wanted to do it since I was like 9 years old and saw WKRP in Cincinnati in 1978.
That's Nessman.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Dr. Johnny Fever, man. He was my hero. Like
Venus Flytrap was my guy.
Sunglasses. What's that?
Venus Flytrap.
Venus was awesome.
It was cool, man.
Yep. Venus was so cool because him and Johnny together were just awesome. And I worked in radio for 10 years. Most of the stereotypes, like among the salespeople and the nerdy news people, they're not that far off. I worked with everyone over the course of the 10 years, but I had this friend who, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? So I'm like, oh, I got nothing else going on. So I borrowed $4,000 from my grandfather, called a local radio station, the DJ I used to talk to on the phone sometimes. And I said, hey, Cindy, I'm thinking of getting into radio. What should I do? And she goes, well, Connecticut School of Broadcasting is just south of Boston. You can go there. It's 8 weeks and they'll give you the basics. So I did it. And I went and I graduated, got my, Sharpie and my paper plate. Hey, look, I did it. And I went and got an internship, not even paid, at a radio station we grew up listening to. And I went to my friend's house. I hadn't seen him all summer.
Yeah.
Where you been? I said, broadcast school. No way. Did you get a job? I said, I got an internship. Told him about it. He was so proud. And of course, you get the told you so speech.
Yeah.
He died 3 weeks later. He was 23. He died of cancer. And it took me 10 years to get the lesson. But when somebody else believes in you, when you don't, listen to them, because they see something in you that you don't even see in your own mirror. So as a speaker, that's who I am for my audiences. And that's why I aim for the shadows. I'll celebrate with the front row people who are jumping up and down and all that. But I'm looking for the people who came in late because they might have sat in their car crying, because I have a relative who actually used to be have that much anxiety. Won't make eye contact, won't say a word, won't talk to me, and won't even take a note. They'll just sit there. I'm like, that's who I work hardest for, because that's where I used to sit.
Yeah.
So every time, man, that's my why. And when I see opportunities, Even if I see somebody not smiling walking down the sidewalk, I'll never say, hey, you should smile. I'll find something about them to compliment. I'll just say something like, that is the coolest hat I've seen all day. And I'll just walk away, or silly little things like that. And you just see, even over a mask, you see those squints of a smile.
Absolutely.
That's why I do what I do, the way I do it.
That's it. No, the why is important. I love it. I love the story of getting the encouragement from your friend. I think for me, I sort of reflecting as I'm thinking back over my life, like every major success that I've had, I talked earlier about, it's because of, some aspect of boldness, but there was also another piece in there. There was someone that was there with me who said, hey, have you thought about that? Hey, you'd be good at this, or did you ever try this? And that was kind of the spark that I needed to get up and go. Tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Share. So in my spare time, whatever spare time that is, I'm the deputy commissioner of NBL Canada, National Basketball League of Canada. It's basketball is my passion, something I love, and I've always been close to. I've been in the role for 4 years. So 2017 was when I was appointed. Prior to that, I had a really close friend of mine. His name was Rick. And Rick had said to me one day, we were just sort of talking generally, he said, something, you would make a great commissioner. You've got a lot of really good skills. I can see you in this role. And at the time I was like, okay. And, and it sort of, but he sparked it. And the thing that was really good about him is he didn't just sort of stop there. He kept on it. Like, it wasn't like, threw it there, you go figure it out and left. He'd come back and say, hey, have you thought about this? And so it became a constant thing with it. We talked about it. And this is years before the opportunity even presented itself. And I had no idea it was an option. But he saw that very same thing that, that was seen in you. And he said, yeah, you got to think about this. He got prostate cancer, and throughout the treatments, his body was deteriorating. He'd still call me weekly, and we'd still talk about this goal and this dream that suddenly became my dream. Yeah. And he passed away 3 years before the appointment actually happened, and before I got to this goal. And I remember sort of initially going, oh, it's too bad, Rick wasn't around to see this. It'd be really, really cool and stuff. But I realized that Rick didn't need to be here to see it, because he already did. He already saw it. The vision was already there for him. So, very, very similar to yourself, your friend encouraging you. We all need people in our corner to push us and to make us go, and to let us know that we are worthy. So again, I share that as you told your story, thinking, yeah, it sounds like my Rick, right? So your Rick did the same thing for you.
Yep. And now I do my best to just cheer people on no matter where I go. It doesn't matter if they're clients. And sometimes people go, hey, Steve, I said, get on a call with me. I call my version of coaching playing volleyball. I said, because, you do a question, dunk, and I come up with a potential answer. Dunk. Right. And then you go, oh, okay, well, what about this? Dunk. And the coolest thing, and I used to love to play volleyball. I'm 6'2". I got freakishly long arms. I used to be really good at volleyball. Awesome. I said, here's the thing. When a volley goes back and forth and two people are so into it, and finally, when one of them just gets that perfect shot and spikes it, nobody cares who won. We're so excited about that exchange of energy and how joyous that was. It just means that idea right now is set to go.
Right.
And so I tell people, I said, look, let's get on a call, kick around some ideas. And those calls are so joyful for me. And there are days I get off the Zoom call or hang up the phone. I'm literally in here either in tears or jumping up and down.
Amazing.
When I see and hear somebody change in the matter of a 20-minute conversation of, nobody believes in me, this, I don't believe in me. And I'm not like, go for it. Your dreams are real, wonk, wonk, like the big motivational clown. It's just helping them to see and hear something in what they said.
Right.
that they're a lot closer than they think. And I love playing volleyball with them. Like, well, what about this? Dunk.
Yeah.
And it's really cool when I hear a week later of them saying, this week has been amazing because I didn't have all these things at the front of my head falling out. You can't do it. You're not good enough. You don't have whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
love doing this, man. I'll do this till the day I die.
Amazing. No, it is. It's amazing. It's a great feeling. The rewards are plenty, if you will. I'd encourage you to keep going by all means, because it is making a difference. And really appreciate some of sharing it. So people are listening, right? So we start off talking about the importance of being bold and being our authentic stuff, our authentic selves. Being an encourager to other people. We talked about being a cheerleader to other people. We talked about all these wonderful things. So before we go, I want to ask, and someone asked, I like to hear from people and what their own journeys. The Audacious Living podcast. So it's only fitting that I ask, what would you say is the most audacious thing you've ever done?
Let's see. I'm going to say back about 8 years ago, I decided to make kindness a part of my speaking business so that every dollar I earn as a speaker was going to somehow go back in an act of kindness.
Okay.
And my mom had learned about this little nonprofit called Liberty House in Manchester, New Hampshire, that helped homeless and in-need veterans. And I had crusts of bread, didn't even have regular loaf of bread. I had crusts of bread left over from a different program I was a volunteer at. And on the dashboard of my car, made the worst, most disgusting, messiest, ooziest peanut butter and jelly sandwiches you've ever seen in your life. And they were an absolute disgraceful mess. And I brought them to Liberty House, and they could not have been more gracious and more appreciative and more genuinely thankful, where they could have just looked and said, what the heck are you doing?
Right.
Well, that one little tiny act of kindness became, at one point, between myself, my stepmom, and my mom, between 1,200 and 1,500 bag lunches a year.
Wow.
With very nice bread.
You've created.
And that little mission that we called Beach Bum Philanthropy, because that's my mindset. I just want to be a beach bum. Literally 4 weeks ago, we got the letter from the IRS. It's now a 501c3 charitable organization.
Wow.
But it started with the messiest peanut butter and jelly sandwiches ever, and the fact that they were so receptive and grateful, where they could have said, oh, come on, really, messy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all stuck together. They were so amazing and loving that it inspired us to want to do more and do it better. And now we have our own 501c3.
Awesome. Better, do it better, build on it. That's great stuff, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, I love that story. Listen, we're not going to let you get out of here before you let people know where to find you. I know you're going to forget, but I wasn't going to let you forget, Steve.
I always forget. I just say, okay, bye, thank you. All my stuff is at motivationalfirewood.com, and everything is there.
Right. Awesome. Steve, listen, I really appreciate you doing this. I'm glad we were able to sit down like this. I've been just thankful and just have a great deal of gratitude for you in my circle. We've exchanged lots of messages. We've gone back and forth. Hey, you helped me out with my book a while back, a few years ago. I still remember that. So I do appreciate your kindness in instituting that, but not just what you're doing for me. I mean, what you're spreading in the world, and certainly keep going and keep doing your part, and I'll do mine.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope people got some good value out of this. I always say, if people wake up tomorrow, and because of our conversation, they think one more positive thought, they speak one more kind word, especially to themselves, and take one more positive action, then this conversation was a huge win for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Back we are here on the Audacious Living Podcast, and thanks, Steve, so much for being here and being on the podcast. And I got to send a big shout out for getting my name up on the chalkboard as well. That was very cool of you. I think your approach, I love it. The whole idea of reaching for those people who are in those shadows. And I think, Steve, you got it absolutely right when you said there are people out there that will see us as heroes because we were brave enough to step out of those shadows and not afraid. And I think, and again, you're absolutely right. We will be seen as heroes because we did have the guts to do something that they've always wanted to do. And again, if we can, we talk about motivation, right? And serving as inspiration for others. If you can find ways to do that, it doesn't matter how you do, but if you can find ways to do that, you absolutely are making a difference to those individuals. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, you certainly can do so by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, enter in your email address, and you'll be immediately notified anytime that there's new content that comes out. It's easy, it's quick, and again, it's a great way to stay connected. I appreciate our listeners as always for being here and checking out the Audacious Living podcast. Love your support. Thank you. Keep it going, and we'll keep doing our part because it totally is appreciated. We've sadly reached the end of another episode. So until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.